Good evening and very warm welcome from Cambridge, and it's so nice to be here together. And my name is Sarah, and welcoming you on this topic of significance of spiritual intelligence. And this session is interactive, so you're welcome throughout to share your thoughts and questions in the chat. And very welcome to come into camera because it will feel like we can connect. So this subject, I'd like to share a couple of quotes that spiritual problems can't be solved with intellectual solutions. And the highest intelligence comes from solving the highest problems. These quotes are from Prashant. He's a Zimbabwe-born and Canadian-based philosopher. And I think it's really interesting because intelligence should be practical. They should lead to something that we benefit from. And we certainly have complex problems in this world. So it's a very relevant subject for our lives. And to discuss this, I'm going to introduce a couple of speakers. Enrique Simó is he's a member of the national coordinating team of the Brahma Kumaris in Spain and coordinator of the headquarters in Madrid. And he's working as an executive coach and facilitator in leadership development programs. And Dr. Prashant Kakoday is joining us from Cambridge. Background is in ENT surgery and integral health. And he's been more recent years more focused on the study of Raja Yoga meditation, his coordinating activities in the Cambridge Centre. So it's a pleasure to be with you and we have everyone on this call. So I'd like to invite you both to share some thoughts initially on the subject, and then we'll proceed with some fresh conversation. So I'd first like to say hello to Enrique and good evening.
Evening.
And welcome. We have Spanish translation also, so you may have some familiar names on the call.
You can hear me well?
It's slightly quiet, but let's see if it picks up.
Quiet. Let me see. No, that's strange. Hello? Like this?
Yeah, I think it's getting better. Let's see how it goes.
Let me see the configuration then. But it's a maximum. Okay, let me speak a little bit louder. So thank you for the. Yes, something happens with the microphone. It's not working. No. Hello?
Yeah, we hear you very well now. Now it's gone. No sound. This is always good to do sound check. This is one part of intelligence.
No? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, it's low, but let's see.
Hello? Okay.
Yeah, it's actually very low. For a while, we had a big noise from the.
No.
No, it's very quiet.
I change the microphone. I look for one moment. I bring it.
Sure. Let's see. We can go to Prashant first of all. If you'd like to share some thoughts. Just need to unmute that.
Hello, and very, very nice to see Enrique after some time, and hello to the gathering, and appreciate your interest in this subject. I'm also very interested to hear from Enrique because that is exactly his field. He is involved with the corporate where they coined this term in spiritual intelligence. And intelligence is always great and useful for anyone, makes our lives easier. If it is nice to be with an intelligent person, he makes your life easy. many things are solved very, very easily. Even if you have a carpenter, it is nice to have an intelligent carpenter. Personal experience. One person says it will take 3 days, another person solves the same situation within 5 minutes. What made the difference? The intelligence. But spiritual intelligence is considered to be the ultimate intelligence, highest of all intelligences. And it has its benefits. Intelligence is not just to solve some, abstract ideas or remember things, but it has its results for the world and for the person also. So few areas, that need to be addressed in this. At the present time, when everyone is in a confusion, major confusion. To start with, they don't even know who they are, and they don't even know what their destination is. They're led by the crowd. Crowd decides there is a certain trend, and everyone runs in that direction. Say we had one leaflet for the students here one time. Have you got a slightest curiosity to know who you are? And everyone understood what we are saying there, because we are going around, getting on with our lives without even knowing who I am. That is a vague sort of position, and with little discussion on it, you realize how we got a false notion of the self. This is just an example. So the first thing for spiritual intelligence would be to come out of this gross ignorance. We call it ego, or the false identification, and come to your true notion of the self. If someone has that understanding, this has to be done, he is already intelligent. But to achieve it, we use the term Maya. Maya means there is within us the intelligence, it is more intelligent than anyone else. That's why the ego wins. That intelligence works for the ego. This intelligence works against us. One simple demonstration of Maya. If you are to know, so there are many, all the time we come across situations. You know what is right, what is wrong. And sometimes you choose to do what is wrong, even though you know it is right, it is wrong. And it is not good it is not in your interest. That is what Maya is. Maya is an absolute lawyer for the devil, and it is certainly the lawyer for the ego. And so Maya is intelligent. You need to be more clever than Maya to overcome that. And that is definitely, we will call it spiritual intelligence. If you can know the situation beforehand and can take steps and win over Maya, win over your own ego, to overcome that subconscious ignorance that exists within us. And if you can help others to become free from it, all of these are very, very intelligent things. But the other aspect, and Enrique may have more things to share in this area, the Dana Zohar, who coined this word in 1997, spiritual intelligence, she uses these terms so beautifully. She says, those who are spiritually intelligent, they can divinize things, what is ordinary, what is mundane, they can divinize it. And that is very clever. Some simple example. Like right now, I could be using this hand. I'm just using a hand. I'm touching someone. I have the option to bring in within me the awareness. God is using this hand. We all can play with it. God is, I the soul using this hand, but along with the I the soul, God is involved here. And it is extraordinary. God is what thought away from us. You create this awareness that God and God is using the hand, and you have divinized that experience for you and maybe for the other person also. That is with the hand. You can use that same attitude. God is using your eyes. You are seeing someone, you are seeing something. Let me bring God in this. And He's using the eyes. And you have divinized that moment for you. And all of this has repercussions. They collect in within you. It may be 10 seconds you play with it, but it has its long-term results. Just as some people get annoyed for 10 seconds, a little they're upset with something for 10 seconds, a little fear for 10 seconds. 10 seconds, 10 seconds. They are bored for a little while and anxious for a little while. It all collects inside and leads to bigger problems down the line. Psychological problems, emotional problems, they come because of these little things. If you are able to divinize these seconds and minutes of your life in an intelligent way, they have their results down the line. So, maybe this was meant to be just an introduction. I'm looking forward to hearing from Enrique. But back to Sarah.
Yeah, thank you so much to give the overview and to be a conviction leader, to think differently from the crowd is necessary in this also. So yeah, you mentioned many things. Let's hear from Enrique and see how your sound is.
You can hear me now well, better?
Yeah, it's excellent. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Sorry for that. Yes, happy to be here also with Prashant. For a long time we haven't seen each other, and now to share, it's also a good opportunity. And I agree, and I like this idea of divinize the actions and whatever you do. And well, for me also, spiritual intelligence is the understanding of our spiritual identity, to understand that we're much more than what we see, what we touch, what we feel also externally. And there is a higher consciousness behind all this image that we see. And spiritual intelligence is to practice and to create this capacity to be able to be more detached, of course, of your ego, because this is the mask that, in fact, sometimes protects you, but other times limits you, and be able to express your innate qualities and live according to them. So it's like being able to also to master your mind and to understand the spiritual laws that governs the life and universe, and to put it into practice. I think spiritual intelligence is very practical because it helps us to deal with different situations that usually are not so understandable, especially nowadays, that there are so many things and so many things happen unexpected, and things that sometimes are not good things. But with spiritual intelligence, you have this capacity to become also the observer. I think this is one of the things that I try to teach the people I work with, especially also in companies, And it's an indirect way to help them to connect with their spiritual intelligence. And it's the capacity to be an observer, to be a little bit more detached from whatever is happening. But this starts being an observer of your thoughts, being an observer of your feelings, being an observer of what is happening inside yourself and how the things are impacting you, and then be able to regulate, to manage these emotions or whatever is happening inside yourself, and be able to have a more efficient response to the circumstances or situations. So in fact, meditation is a methodology that we need to develop this spiritual intelligence. It's not something that we develop only studying rational things or understanding ideas or even reading books of spirituality. We need to use spiritual knowledge and to put it into practice through meditation and creating this experience inside ourselves. So we are learning through spiritual intelligence the capacity to be free from ego and to experience the power that is in our spiritual identity. When we connect with this energy that we are more than the physical appearance, and we are able to express ourselves from this internal energy and use our mind in a spiritual way, with more spiritual thoughts, with more divine thoughts, as Prashant was saying, divinizing these activities, then it's very interesting how you can see a different impact in whatever things are happening externally. So in fact, I have observed myself when I practice that you do less effort and you achieve more results. And when you use the other intelligence, you have to do a lot of efforts and sometimes you get results, but not always. So this is why I feel deeply that spiritual intelligence is very practical, but it's not they don't teach this in schools or universities. We have to learn this in other places, in spiritual places. But when you realize the power of spiritual intelligence, then you see that life can be much more easy. You can achieve much more results in less time using this spiritual intelligence, this spiritual energy, connecting with yourself and using the power of your thoughts, but in an elevated way. And it's so interesting how you can see things happening around you without doing so much effort, like using the other intelligence, for example, rational intelligence, that you have to think, to analyze so many things you have to do, and then to talk so much, to try to solve things. But with spiritual intelligence, it's like things, you spread the energy, you create the energy, you create the atmosphere, and then many things happen in this environment. You don't need to solve every little thing. And I had this experience this weekend, because yesterday we finished a retreat, a 4-day retreat, and we have had very good meditations, and we have created a very nice atmosphere. And at the end of the retreat, I was surprised how so many people came to me to say that they have such a good experiences, that they had their minds so calm that never had their minds like this. Others, they have discovered something special in their lives. So many things happen, and it was not treating every person individually, but it was like the atmosphere was helping each one to solve their own problems, their own situation, and giving them an experience. So this is why with the spiritual energy that you create with this understanding of spirituality, you have a much bigger impact, affecting much more people at the same time, without having to work with everyone individually. So this is one of my experiences in the last few days. And yes, these are some thoughts about spiritual intelligence, and maybe we can share something, and with Prashant, another idea or any questions.
I like this reference you make to observation and being the observer, that one thing that happens is some situation comes and I can rush into it, take a decision, act, and then later on regret. I rush, say something, do something, and later I feel that was not the best thing. And other situation is where I step back. You know what Enrique mentioned just now. Step back for maybe a few seconds before you talk or before you act, do things. Then there are less chances of regret. You are more likely to do the right thing. You know, and this is something we all can play with. And as Enrique said, this theory sounds good, but we need to have some homework. We need to do this practice in ourselves first. But I want to ask Enrique one aspect of this spiritual intelligence. They say, we all know givers are happier than takers in this world. Sometimes they themselves may have difficult life, but they are happier because their attitude is giving, and this is mentioned in spiritual intelligence. They say give rather than take, and I have some examples where companies have that position. They are not working too much on making more profit, but thinking of the community. So one such company worked for the community, creating schools, creating the provision for the community rather than just making that profit. And the government, central government, realized what this company is doing and gave them contract in other cities and the rest of the country also. So there are examples of this kind. But I would like to hear from Enrique. Is this what is happening in the corporate world? Are there very good examples in this?
Well, my experience is not exactly this one. I know that there are companies like this, but I've observing in the last year or a little bit more that companies are running to create more and more and accumulating more and working more and creating more pressure. So what I find in the people nowadays is that people have a good job, people have a good salary, but they are not happy. There is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of tension, and there is a lot of frustration. And it's because they last week, I was working in a workshop for a company, and I was trying to convey a message that the human resources tried to convey to the company, that they had to take care more about people. But it's like, it's a message, it's not a reality, in fact, no? So they were complaining, the people, and saying, no, people come here to work for money, not for giving some kind of nice things. So these are very nice things, but this is not practical. If you give more money, they will be more happy, no? So I was thinking, if you have this belief, so imagine the frustration that you have so many hours every day just for the money at the end of the month, no? So this is what I'm observing, that people are very frustrated, they are very tired, and they are not happy because they don't get meaning from what they are doing. And it's so important to have meaning, no? To do meaningful things. And in general, this even they are very disconnected from this spirituality, this spiritual intelligence. Let me put a little bit like this. So I think it's so important. I try to introduce all the time a little bit of something so that people can awaken a little bit. And always there is someone who picks it up and awakens a little bit. So this is my aim many times. I do what I have to do and I do the workshop, but at the same time, my intention is, let me give something that maybe 1 or 2 persons awaken, and for them, it's worth this workshop more than only the content, but for something else. So I try always to introduce some moments of silence, some moments of kind of exercise of observation, because indirectly, if you teach them to observe themselves, in fact, you are helping them to connect with this spiritual intelligence in an indirect way. And then they realize that they can observe themselves, they can observe their feelings, they can observe their thoughts also. And this is a very useful thing for them. But in general, I see that there is no much, especially in our countries, my country, in Spain and other countries I work, not much to give. It's more to take, and more take and take and take. Even though the company is going well, but they put more pressure in the people, and they don't hire more people. They work with less people. So then you say, well, how do you want people to be motivated and happy if they work so much? They have so much pressure, and they are so less and so much work. So the only way to help them, sometimes I say, you need to find something that you can be more stable inside yourself. And this is spiritual intelligence without using the word spiritual, but find something that you can give meaning to what you do. And this is a work that you have to do. Don't expect others to do this work. Don't expect your boss to do this work. You have to do it. So some of them, they realize that they can do something. Others, they continue to complain. But I think it's worth, if some, they realize and they awaken, and others, they will continue, and everyone has its own moment to awaken a little bit and to be more aware of the need of the time. And what is your experience, Prashant, about this?
Yes, and I particularly like the aspect, how you treat your enemy, that is a reflection of yourself. So in this world, there are those who, the rest of the life, they are sort of absolutely full of revenge or trying to get at their opponents. But the people whom we praise in history, those who are remembered, the big example, recent history, Gandhi and Nelson Mandela, if you go into their life, they have respect. They genuinely worked to benefit their enemies. Gandhi had a position never to criticize anyone, and certainly not the political opponents or anyone. No jokes. In their ashram, the policy was there are no jokes about anyone. Same with Nelson Mandela. So the greatness of a person is understood by how he treats the enemy. And as Enrique mentioned, for any of this, there is homework. Spirituality is required. The effort, the meditation side is required. What happens with this kind of effort? You realize you are secure, you are beyond the mundane. We use the word story and the drama at this level. And the drama has different characters, but spirituality necessarily means you are beyond and you are above, and you are feeling very, very secure, and things that would normally be affected or bothered in the same situation is not affecting you. as a result, you don't have enemies. An enemy, people label someone as enemy when they are harmed. Here, the person feels he is beyond harm. The soul conscious practice is the practice where you totally know you are beyond harm, you are immortal. These are the sort of practices, that some of us are aware of, but if they are applied, the more you play with it, and you play with it for minutes and minutes, these feelings of absolute security will come in, and then you have no enemies. And the natural state of individual is love. And those who have made this effort, they have worked on themselves. Whether it is Christ is a big example. He went until the last moment. Forgive them. So no enemies. Love dominates in that higher state. And that is intelligent, because the person experiences these feelings in himself. Another person is experiencing dislike or hatred. He is punishing himself at the immediate level, whereas the other person is experiencing love and feelings of benevolence and respect for others, but that is happening within him and he's experiencing it for himself. Now, I want to also ask Enrique, this aspect of spiritual intelligence, where you transform negative into positive. This is seen as another nice factor. That what appears to be like a setback, failure, criticism, loss, transform into positive. How do we do this, and what are your experiences? And in the corporate world, how do they do this?
Well, I see that this. Okay. I think the most important thing is to perceive things in a different way, to learn the art of changing the perception of things in a different way. And I remember I was working in a company many years back, and the boss was very, very tough, very, very difficult person, very rude. And after 1 month, I thought, I was already meditating, and I thought, or I quit this job, or I change something. So I did a very deep meditation for a few days, trying to understand what could give meaning to this situation. And as you say, this was very intelligent attitude, not rejecting, not reacting, but finding the positive on that. So then I realized that he was teaching me, in fact, being very tolerant, being very adaptable, being very patient. So I realized that so many qualities he was teaching me. And there was not only he, but he was his sister and other people there. And the situation was a little bit tense at the beginning because they were very strict with me. So then I had this deep meditation. I changed my perception. I say, okay, I don't go to this place to work. I go to a school of a high level of training in communication skills. So then I really positioned myself in this new perception. And then I enjoyed the job. I was there and saying, let's see today, what is the new lesson that this boss, this teacher will taught me. And then I said, okay, and this is very high level of school. And at the at the end of the month, even they pay me. I don't have to pay for that. So then I start to enjoy the job. And even I was laughing at some situation. He was treating me sometimes in a meeting in a bad way, and I was laughing inside myself. I say, wow, now this is a very good training. He tries to do this with me, and I will be stable. I will respond in a nice way. And you know what happened after a while? That he started to have a different attitude towards me. And he started to be very friendly with me. And then we create a very nice relationships together. And finally, he was really happy with me. And he always started to change. He also started to change his attitude. And many things happened after that. After 1 year and a half, he changed many things in his life. Even he changed the diet. He started to meditate. So many things happened. But the first step was my change of perception. So I always try to teach also people to try to change the perception and find something meaningful in what they do in their job. Yes, we have to do some kind of normal things in the job. Sometimes are boring, are not very interesting. There are administrative things. But the thing is, what can be your new perception? How can you change this normal thing or even negative thing into a positive thing? And the way that I've learned to do that is you always can improve yourself as a person. Maybe externally it's difficult to change something negative into positive because what is happening is what is happening. But always you have the possibility to change this into positive when you think about developing yourself as a person, at different levels of improvement. And I observe in myself, but in other people also, that one of the things that gives you more happiness is when you feel a little bit better with yourself. You are a little bit more happy. You are a little bit more peaceful. You are a little bit more determined. You are a little bit more empathetic. So when you develop some qualities in yourself, you feel more happy. So after this experience, I've always tried to find meaning in what I'm doing, but the meaning is connected with my personal development, and especially in this case, spiritual development. So I try to see others also, as you said, as spiritual beings, as souls, and observe the impact that this has. Because with this boss, this is a very nice story. Every day I had to bring him some papers and he was signing these papers. And I was sitting in front of him for 5-10 minutes every day. So I thought he was very concentrated, signing all these papers, saying anything, not speaking, in silence. So I was in front of him, face to face. He was looking to the papers. And I thought, what can I do in these 5-10 minutes? So let me send him good thoughts and let me see him as a spiritual being, as a soul, something different than the label of the boss. So every day for 10 minutes, I was practicing this. And you know, so many changes happened in our relationship. And he changed so much after that. So I've realized that our thoughts and our vision towards others is so important. And our spiritual vision has an impact on others. So meditation is not only to practice you as a spiritual being, seeing yourself as something more than this physical image and something more than your ego, but also seeing others behind these labels, behind this image, behind all these limitations that this person has created, and transcend and go inside and see that there is also a beautiful being there. There is a spiritual being there, but maybe is not aware of that. And with your vision, with your attitude, in fact, you are awaken this awareness in the other person also. No? And this was a very nice experience. And then he changed so much. He started to meditate also. His wife started to meditate. His son started to meditate. So it was a lot of change, of changes. And then I realized the powerful attitude of this spiritual intelligence. And it was very intelligent attitude for my side, because then I enjoy my job. I was going to a higher level in the job also. They paid me more. So it's very practical, as I said before. Spiritual intelligence is not only something about abstract things, but it's very practical things. I don't know if you have another experience like this, some similar, practicing this spiritual vision.
Yeah, that's so nice. And you've both kind of answered a question in a way that's come up, but I will ask it. Does our economic system put limits on the possibility of spiritual intelligence? And you talked a bit earlier, Enrique, about this reality that most of us are in jobs where we're being asked to do a lot more than ever before. So is it the responsibility on each individual, or is it something that the political policies, companies, society should take responsibility for? And because there are some people who are more fortunate than others. Any thoughts that come up on this?
Well, I think the theory is that they should be a little bit more concerned about this, but the practical thing is, finally, if you don't take your personal individual responsibility, you can expect something, but then maybe it doesn't happen. And it's true that some companies, they put attention to that, but very few. So finally, my experience is that I personally have taken the responsibility about myself, my well-being, and the meaning that I give to my job, independently how it is. So finally, I would recommend, don't expect something, don't wait for something, do something immediately, because it's your well-being, is something good for you, is nothing about others. If you think positively, it's good for you. If you have good feelings, it's good for you. And if you have bad feelings, frustrations, and complain, this is bad for you, because it's like poisoning yourself. So it's very intelligence and spiritual intelligence to be positive with yourself and create these meaningful things for yourself, and don't expect and don't wait for others. This would be my advice, because times are not going so well and we cannot expect many good things. So we can be an example and lead this situation or this movement, and help others to awaken a little bit their consciousness. Mm-hmm.
That's nice. It comes back to what Prashant was saying earlier, to think independently from the crowd. Prashant, would you agree? And although this may be a good theory, but how to put it in practice and how to have the strength? Any thoughts?
Yeah, what Enrique shared is like a practical example how to put this in practice. Very, very fascinating. That one aspect of the spiritual intelligence is you are led by the future. And that is what he actually put into practice. You see the future, what would you like to achieve? What kind of relationship I would like? In this case, the boss, or it can be in another situation, the country. Most of the time, we could be taking decisions led by the past. As an example, say a person, he behaves in a certain way with you 10 years ago. He behaved the same way last year. He behaved the same way as today. So you now have got a pattern. This is what he does. And so you are taking a decision. I am going to treat him in a certain way. And this is the way world operates. This is the way countries operate. Another way of doing things is what kind of relationship I would like to have with him in the future. And I would like him to be my friend in the future. I would like to be very close. I want, if it is a boss, I want a promotion. you got this vision, very clear vision of the future in your mind, and you are taking steps led by the future, then you are clever, you are intelligent, and you are not planning based upon the past. We had a very good example of this in this country with, at that time, Prince Charles. There are some terrorist organizations. At that time, IRA was a terrorist, and his uncle, Lord Mountbatten, was killed by one organization like that. He died. But he took a step, Prince Charles, and met the people, and some symbolic, steps of friendship with the organization. Why would he do that? Because he's seeing the future, what he would like the future relationship between the communities or the countries. And based on that, you are taking a step, and it finished. The past got finished. A different chapter opened up. And if this is implemented, it is, we all have got different things to deal with, at a personal level, in the company level, or at a work, boss, but sometimes at a larger, national level, you have the vision and or go for the highest vision. In spiritual context, you are thinking about paradise. It is everything depends upon what kind of vision we can hold, and take steps, in that, with that vision in mind, led by the future. It will be nice to hear from Sarah also some thoughts in this context, and your experiences.
I think this is one of the key aspects of spiritual intelligence, because you are as if seeing a clean start. And I think it comes back to what Enrique said earlier about seeing the other as a spiritual being beyond the roles. Otherwise, something inside us is reacting, the employees reacting to the role of the boss. And it's one experience I had with a friend. She used to have quite challenging moods, and I would sometimes have to hold a vision of her. In a way, it was beyond the present scene, if you like, knowing that the mood would pass. She could get really angry, sometimes directed at me or someone else, but it's like holding that vision of the spirit and not giving energy to the clouds, if you like, the passing mood or the emotions. And that would help her come out of that emotional investment, whatever had happened. Because if I address the cloud, then I'm reinforcing in her something which is, as you were saying, Enrique, earlier, sometimes it's better not to try to fix or analyze, but raise the spiritual atmosphere, that contribution we can make. Then we all have the answers, we just need the right space. We all have this spiritual intelligence, we just need to activate it. So I thought a question has come up. I'm just trying to summarize. What's the way to find motivation in a challenging time of pressure and corporate expectation? It's nice you brought this a few times, meaning, the need for meaning. I guess you've answered it in a way, but if our job description tells us that we need to be a certain way, but it might be not congruent with the way that we're feeling, perhaps. Thoughts you'd like to share, Enrique?
Well, this is happening more and more also. And sometimes we need to have courage and see if this is the place that we have to be, or we can think about changing something. You know, I've changed several times my job, and it was not because I was not happy, but it was because there was not more growth for me there. So for me, it's very important to feel myself growing in different aspects. And if you trust yourself, I think this is also a very intelligent thing spiritually, because rationally is not like this. But when you have trust in yourself, trust in life, and also trust in others, and trust in God, and you create this energy inside yourself that life will help you, others also will help you, and you trust this because you have a good intention for the people, for the world, and you are giving, as Prashant was saying before, no, you have this attitude of contributing, of giving. Life will help you if you go for something higher, something where you can contribute more. And this has happened to me so many times. I finished something because I felt it's time to finish, and I was open to something new without having something new. But something new came to me so many times. But I think this is another spiritual attitude, to trust life. And then we need to work inside ourselves, of course. We need to work on our fears, because fears are limiting us, and fears are just limited thoughts that we are creating in our minds. And with this spiritual practice of connecting with your spiritual identity, connecting with your internal power, I would say, tapping into your personal power, this gives you the strength to have courage and sometimes to take decisions. And I've seen so many people who have taken the decision to change something and to look for something, and they have found something. But first they need this attitude of being secure, as Prashant was always saying, secure with themselves. And this is a spiritual skill. It's not something connected with what you have or what you have accumulated. It's a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual attitude, feeling internally secure. And this security brings things to your life, whatever is needed. So I think it's a time now to really reflect on what is happening in your life. And if it has no meaning, have a deep reflection. It's not something emotional that you have to take decision emotionally. No, with time, with several conversations with other people, in silence, connecting with yourself, and see what can you do, and finish the fears and have courage. Well, these are some ideas that came to my mind.
Very interesting answer. She says she agrees, feeling secure, trusting God helps. She's working on it. Thank you for that. I just want to see with Prashant, if you want to pick up anything on what you mentioned at the beginning, and also Enrique may have thoughts, to be intelligent than our own, you called it Maya, which I guess you could call intelligent deception, that which is working for our ego. So you gave the example, we know what is good. We might know deeply meditation is good for me. I may have had big experiences, but I might not be doing it. So we need to be more intelligent than this resistance or deception. I don't know if you want to say anything more about that.
Sure. From what Enrique shared so far, it appears, or it is very evident for everyone. This life can bring any situation to you, and you can transform everything. If you, just like the example of the boss, and then you change your attitude and you are changing it for progress and benefit. So if he can do this in one situation, you can take benefit of anything that can come in this world. And just internally, you need to have a positioning. And Enrique used the word meaning, and you are growing in the process. Just as a sailor, he just need to keep his sails, the mast, in the right direction, and wind helps him, takes him to the destination. Same here. That is where the intelligence lies. And the nice secret here, if you want to go for the highest, number one, then all the factors are helping you. Number one is not at a gross level, it at a spiritual, the highest attainment. And if that is your aim, then everything is helping you. If you are aiming for number two, then many things become obstacle. Wind is going in a direction to take you to number one, and your aim is number two, so you will have problems. Coming to what Sarah is asking, one great virtue we need to have, not to join the crowd, and that is also considered as a spiritually intelligent position. To be able to think very clearly and be prepared to walk alone. Not just, if you are joining the crowd, then there is no hope of any attainment, because crowd is going in a different direction. So you need to be able to think clearly and be prepared to walk alone. And another great quality we need is to go to the bottom of things. In the medical world, there are, when you are studying for exams, there are some books, you can read those books, you answer the exam, you pass the exam. But there are some books that really helps you understand the subject thoroughly. And it may not help you answer an exam, that of course it helps you, but you have spent 3 times more effort to get the same answers, but you understood the subject thoroughly. Then in your life, in your career, because you understood the subject thoroughly, you can solve any situation. If you have just answered for the exam with not gone to the bottom of things, then you can't solve the practical situations with patients. Same here also in our life and in the spiritual matters. And this is also seen as a great quality, a spiritual quality and intelligence. To be interested, to go into the bottom of things, try and understand thoroughly the subject. And once you have understood, then you are so clear and sure about every aspect. Then the department of Maya exists if there is confusion. The only reason for all the chaos in the world is ignorance or confusion. More there is clarity and more there is conviction about things. Not that if some one situation comes and immediately you are into doubt. Now, some spiritual aspects, we need to be as clear as if you are seeing something very physical. And once that is in place, and Maya has less chance to win, and you are a winner. In this case, as it doesn't remain just your victory. One bird flies, second bird flies, the whole flock flies. So you're directly, indirectly helping much bigger situation of the planet. But it starts with the victory of the individual.
Very nice, Prashant. Yes, I agree completely. We need to pause, to go deep, to go to the bottom, to reflect, to understand, and then there is security, then we can take decisions and move forward.
It's been a very rich discussion, and we finished just on time there with the last part. And I also like this image of the sails. You put it in the right direction, but this emphasis that you need to go for the best. And so yeah, this high level of training that the world is offering now is maybe giving us the best training to get to the best position. So it's very nice to, whatever situation, let's give ourselves the opportunity and in a gentle way bring these ideas. So we could create maybe a couple of minutes of meditation. I will just mention before that, I'll put in the chat details for anyone here who is new to inner space and Brahma Kumaris. We have the opportunity every week to do courses. And if you're in a Spanish group, perhaps someone will type the Spanish links as well. We have talks every month, and the retreats coming up in December. And yeah, I'm encouraged to be curious and to investigate any questions you have. You can get in touch with the team. So yeah, really appreciate this very rich discussion. And maybe Prashant would like to share a few words of meditation.
Yeah, sure. In this, maybe just a couple of minutes, let us go for the best intelligence and the best sight. And with this, we see the whole physical world as a story. So everything that happened today, it happened in a story. And everything of the past, it happened in a story. And we are able to go beyond the story. Story is not the only world that exists. Beyond the story is silence. There is no noise of the story. World of complete stillness. We see this in the image of a sky. Give ourselves this experience of immersing ourselves in this dimension beyond. Expanse of silence. Timeless, changeless, endless. This is the home of the invisible souls. This is the true home and the only home. This is the secure home. All are safe, all have a home. all are immortal. We realize the truth for everyone is immensely beautiful. As we continue on our journey in the sky and on earth, we remember the beautiful truth. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Enrique, Prashant, also translation team, for your hard work, and to everyone on this call for joining, creating this atmosphere and inspiring each other through seeing this as important, and wish everyone luck with the ongoing experiments and training. So we will meet again, enjoying the opportunity to develop in this intelligence. See you next time.